this autumn, my Knowledge Exchange Violin project restarts in Scandinavia, in Sweden. And the very first adventure that we're having begins right here. I'm standing outside one of the great brick churches of the north. This is the Petri kyrka, the St. Peter's Church in Malmö in Sweden. This is a fantastic brick medieval church. Most of it is 13th century, but the real interesting thing for me is what's right behind me. The corner of the church here, the northwest corner of the church, is Kammarkapellet, the Merchant's Chapel. When the Reformation came to Denmark, because in the 1500s, technically, Skåne, this part of what is now Sweden, was part of Denmark. When the Reformation came here, all the decorations of these Catholic churches, then Catholic churches, were stripped out. And many of us are familiar with Northern European whitewashed bare walls of Dutch and North German and Scandinavian churches. And between 1520 and 1555, the Reformation here was particularly fierce and particularly iconoclastic. However, this chapel behind was for various reasons not touched, mainly because it was full of lumber and boarded up. So inside there is, as opposed to the rest of this marvellous church, which is, as you'd expect, wide and full of that rather Nordic light, which in some ways is alien to the way the building was made, inside there is a riot of 15th century painting. It ranges from the Christian imagery you'd expect, images of the resurrection, images of the Virgin Mary, various saints, all the way through to late medieval Gothic bawdy. There are strange creatures, there are strange musical instruments, there are visions of almost Dionysian excess, and the whole thing in the most amazing riot of foliage. It's a reminder of the lost oak woods of Northern Europe. All of the images, be they religious, sacred or profane, are wound into the most extraordinarily forest, thicket, brambles of green. So what I've done is I've invited a group of composers, some of them from Sweden and Denmark, including some fascinating composers from here, Rolf Martinsen, Daniel Hjort, the Danish composer Ben Sørensen, and Stefan Storm, and composers from the USA, Michael Alec Rose, from Cyprus, Avis Samoutis, from Kosovo, Dafina Zekiri, and another Swedish composer, David Rieber, to simply find themselves inside this building. And some of them were able to do it by coming here naturally. Some had to imagine their way into it and simply see what they wrote. A number of them have written pieces about saints. We have a St. Anthony, a St. Catherine, and a Mary Magdalene. We've got one composer wrote something of the worry of emptiness, horror vacui, which is what David Rieber wrote. Composers such as Rolf Martinsen have played with the idea of fabled animals, and Stefan Storm has played with the idea of what happens when the colours of the past fade. So what we have is effectively a mosaic, a tapestry of different composers giving me a way into this building. And what I'm going to do is, the day after tomorrow, that's on Wednesday, I will first of all give a lunchtime concert in the church of the music, then do a repeat of the concert at the Lund University, at the Malmö Music Academy, effectively making it virtual. And the next day, the next morning, at 7 o'clock in the morning, I'm going to come into the chapel itself and film the pieces in situ. Then this won't be the end of it, because as well as the filming the pieces in situ and linking them up with the space and the images, I'm going to call it the chapel will then effectively go on the road I'm going to do it in the US at University of Wisconsin and at Vanderbilt University. So effectively, what we're going to end up with is a virtual chapel, preserved almost analog in some ways to the way that this extraordinary space behind me was preserved, miraculously saved from the fires and fury of Reformation 500 years ago.